Fake tattoos. First of all, I want to cheers you, all of the success you've had.
Thank you so
and
much.
to a crazy and wonderful 2025.
As you go above, it becomes more difficult. It's not difficult at the bottom, it's difficult at the top. Because then you will have to sustain, then you have to retain.
What is your secret, Sam? Tell us.
Should I reveal it? Maybe. Artists are not a competition, but branding and ideologies are simple. If you walk more, if you eat well, you rave more until you're 16.
How many tattoos do you have?
0.
Okay, done. So now this question will never be answered. If everybody comes and asks you this question, divert them to the
interview.
podcast. Done.
Views are coming.
I want to take a moment to talk about this beautiful place called Daisy right here in the heart of MG Road in Bangalore. This versatile all-day bar is a beloved spot for all things breezy, vibrant, and fun. We especially recommend checking out their Saturday night events and yummy Sunday brunches with live music. We promise you, you will not be disappointed. We want to thank Daisy for partnering with us for this episode of Soundcheck. Talking about my guest today, I mean, what do I even say about this man? Fake Tattoos is one of the most beloved artists in the country right now, and his music has taken over the world. We've had a beautifully raw conversation today, and we really hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Soundcheck.
Fake Tattoos. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
If not you, then who else?
If not with you, then who else?
So sweet. First of all, I want to cheers you, all of the success you've had.
Thank you so
and
much.
to a crazy and wonderful 2025.
To you as well.
Thank you. Wow, this is nice. You're having a pina colada. You're in a very summery.
Yeah, I'm always in the mood of summer. I don't know why.
And I'm having the dance of the peacock. So absolutely perfect in theme with what we're about to talk. I think so.
Besides, I like the white because, contrast.
Oh, lovely.
Color coded always in my
Oh my God, marketing guy. So let's get into it. Obviously, everybody knows you as Fake Tattoos. Your real name is one of the most complicated names I've ever heard in my life, which is
Samprukt.
like I said, one of the most complicated names. So I always call him Sam, which I think most people do.
Yes.
But what does Samprukt actually mean?
Samprukt is an Odia name. I am an Odia. And it is a very traditional name in Odisha as well. It means involved.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
We'll get to your stage name in a minute as well, because that's always a topic of conversation. But firstly, I want to congratulate you for completing a decade in music, in the industry. That's a significant time. Of course, you've put in the effort over the decade, which is clearly showing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
My first question is that if you were to break up your decade-long career into a few chapters or into a few sections, 2, 3, 4, that's up to you. However you've sort of seen your journey so far, what would these chapters be?
I think first few years of my chapters were music producing. I started learning music. I started producing first. And then I learned DJing. I had my mentor, Sahil Madan, he taught me. I think that was the first phase of learning things and learning the basics of electronic music industry, which is the DJing and producing. And then I think I moved into pubs and bars, mostly playing rock and retro. That was my second phase of life. And the third is when I entered the party phase.
And what were these years? Just sort of break them down.
The first was 2015 to 2016 was mostly like learning.
Okay.
And 2016 to until 2018 was mostly in pubs and bars, playing rock and retro music, a bit of disco as well.
Okay.
And then I entered the party phase where I was booked in clubs where they were playing EDM, house, and I would play pop music, hip-hop music. And I think 2020 was the phase where I decided I'm going to pursue my sound, and after that is the phase that has been still going on. Okay. Now we are on a different phase where it's competition on the global level.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So what were these different phases in terms of your experience? Like what were the easier ones? What were the harder ones? Where did you feel that things really sort of took off? Like what was that turning point?
The easier ones, I won't say it's easy. I think
that's why I ask easier. Nothing is easy in all of this craziness.
Yeah, nothing's easy in a way. But I think consistency works your way out.
Right.
But I think as you go above, it becomes more difficult. It's not difficult at the bottom. It's far difficult at the top.
Okay.
Because then you will have to sustain. Then you have to retain. That's a lot of work, and I don't think you can do it with a small team. You need to increase the team size, and you have to manage a lot of people's emotions. I think it gets more difficult on the top. I think it was easier before.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, back then I used to feel that struggle period is like real, and it was. But now, then I look back, it's actually very easy. Then it's much more difficult now. In fact, wasting 5 minutes also can be annoying and a big headache to me at the moment.
Very interesting. I think most people, especially who start out, would look at or probably imagine that it's the other way around. कि यार शुरू में तो बहुत struggle है bro, बहुत struggle करना पड़ता है. एक बारी एक level पे पहुंच जाओ तो then things become easier. But it's not the case.
It's not the case. It's not the case. I mean, sure, you'll get the work. Back then, I think when you are small as a small artist, you might get less work. But I think that's the struggle part of it. I think when you grow, you have more work. But people pleasing, the management and the business is far more. You have to be on point. You have to be on time. Time becomes like your biggest asset than work or any kind of money.
Interesting.
Every time is your currency. Then there's nothing else you can do about it. Wasting time becomes such a headache.
So would you? I mean, it's an obvious question, but would you go back and rather have that, or would you?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Because time management skill is one of the biggest life lessons anybody can learn. It's the best thing. I think it makes you more focused towards your health, towards your relationship. I mean, through business, you can actually learn that and apply it in your personal life.
What tips do you have for time management?
I would say if you have a chance to sleep good amount of 8 hours, which lacks in our nightlife, I think go for it because that keeps your heart rate very well and your mental health also very fine. So every chance you get to sleep for a good amount of time, take it. Right. Don't look for like you have to sleep in the night, you can't do it in the day. Take your chance. Our industry is such that we are in nightlife business, but try to go ahead and get as much sleep as you can whenever you get time.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the best tips, I would say.
Yeah. Amazing. And of course, since you spoke about mental health and physical health, I'm so glad that you brought it up so early. I definitely have, a few more questions around that I want to get into. Yeah. But before that, you've sort of broken down your decade-long journey so far. Yeah. And your growth over those 10 years have absolutely been amazing. We've obviously been seeing you for the past few years, and you're an inspiration to not just this team, but so many other artists. So absolutely kudos to you. What is your secret, Sam? Tell us.
Should I reveal it? Maybe. I think consistency and discipline. I think, like I said, if I started focusing a bit on my physical health, COVID was when, before COVID, obviously, I was producing, I was trying to go to parties, I was trying to network. I think when I got time in COVID, I got a lot of time to reflect. So I actually stopped watching television and entertainment for 3 years. Okay. So I became completely very disciplined to okay, I need to develop this as a brand. So I think completely being obsessed over what I do is the ultimate secret. So I would suggest I give a lot of hours to it. Like earlier, I think the struggle time, it looked like I was giving hours, but I was giving attention to a lot of other things as well. But I think after self-reflection, I'm completely most of my hours goes in developing the brand in a day.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said, from the outside, there's a certain way that we perceive you and the audience perceives you and the industry perceives you. How do you perceive yourself? How do you feel about your journey so far? Like, is it you're at a point where you're like, oh wow, fucking hell, I worked hard and I'm really proud of what I've done? Or are you like, bro, abhi to kuch bhi nahi hua hai. There's so much more to be done. Like, there's so little time. How do you feel about yourself and your journey?
I feel very grateful that people are so receptive towards my music. Thank you so much, all of you. And I would suggest that now the relationship has become more like, okay, now there's expectations and I am happy to manage that expectation and create more music that makes them feel something. So I take it as a job. So I think the feeling part of it that you said, I think individually is not that much. but it's between me and the relationship with the crowd and audience. That's where the love is mostly exchanged. I'm happy and grateful about that. I don't think that it's less or more because again, like I said, time management. Part of time management is not to think about these things,
over it.
not to dwell over it. So I would suggest, I'm happy that they're receptive, and through that I learn, and I obviously in my own journey I decide to create. In the end, we all create music for the crowd, so I make sure I give them the best in the coming time.
That's an interesting point that you brought up, right? Because there is this big debate about, okay, how do we, sort of cater to the audience and to the market and still being yourself, still being original. So that's one interesting point that you said, that you are trying to, what is the audience is wanting. You want to make sure that you provide that.
Yeah, from me. Yeah. Not from as a music as a whole.
Okay, so what's your thought process when you're making music? Like, for example, you're on your laptop, you're creating something. Does that question come into your mind? यार ये लोगों को पसंद आएगा या भाड़ में जाए लोग, मेरे को पसंद आ रहा है?
No, first I have to see if I'm grooving to it, because in the end I have to attract people who have the same dance music knowledge as mine, who know the grooves that I know. Because let's say I love minimal music, but I don't produce it much. But for me, it's like I, as an audience, I enjoy it. But as an artist, I would suggest I would think maybe not, because it's not my biggest favorite, or maybe hard techno for that matter. So based on what I like the most, I imagine myself how I feel about it. And I'm like, okay, मेरी vibrant या eccentric crowd को ये पसंद आएगा, because मैं खुद vibrant and eccentric हूँ.
Got it. Yeah. Got it. Lovely. Great. And your music obviously has a lot of influence from Indian sounds and Eastern sounds and all of that. That's very clear. So what sparked this interest, and how did you find this very specific sound that is faketattoos?
So I've earlier, when EDM came, I used to be obsessed as a fan with that music. But I think I did a bit of brand study as well. I understood that although that music was loud and very poppy and very lot of ecstasy and big grand, I understood that it came out, from a business perspective, I understood I might like the music. But it came from a core culture of Eurodance, because that's their culture or something. So I thought, let me decide and let me travel my whole country and whatever places I can go individually on solo travel. Let me see what is the core culture. That's how I discovered, okay, this is who I am also as well, because everybody's loved Indian classical and Bollywood, most of them in India. So, and I've been a fan of Arabic music as well. So I decided, so why not? Because if you look at it, I think it comes easy and more smoothly while making music, that who you are and how you've been brought up, rather than trying to replicate something and who you're not if you've not been this. I'm not saying you cannot produce hard techno or you cannot, but if you spend good amount of time in Germany, or you as an Indian, I'm saying, if you spend good amount of time in Germany, if you spend good amount of time in Sweden, if you spend certain good amount of time in Africa, you will automatically, you blended your physical, your energy with the culture. So you will be able to bring that emotion out as well. So I think I've spent most time in India, so I was able to bring it out from me very well.
Very interesting. And was this thought process from day one when you started music, or did that eventually sort of develop as you grew?
Eventually sort of developed. At first, obviously, I was a fan of this industry and a fan of the music, and I was obsessed with everything. I was trying to make all kinds of music. I've made dubstep as well. But eventually, like I said, if my body feels the groove and it's coming out of my body, then that's, I feel, authenticity for a musician.
Lovely. Makes complete sense. And since you spoke about business and that mindset, I know that you come from a corporate background as well. You had a job.
Not fully, but
So let's dive into that a little bit. What was that experience, and what did you learn from it that you were able to incorporate into your music?
So I studied animation and film studies, and in the early days of my career, I worked in graphic designing and mostly brand design. I worked with Clement as well. I was designer in his school, music school.
No way. Oh, this is new. This is new information. Okay.
So I was designing his music school as well. That's where I learned the power of branding mostly. while learning about design or something. So I think I brought that into my individual experience and my brand building. That's the business take I got from it. Later, obviously, through networking and everything, I learned about finance, economics, everything.
Okay.
Yeah, through like networking with like really big people outside India, inside India, business minds, to understand how branding really, even you can escalate it more.
Right.
Like I said, like as you go above, the task is even more.
Right.
Yeah, because then you realize, okay, you are now going to compete. See, artists are not the competition, but branding and ideologies are. That's the competition that you have to fight.
That's interesting. Go deeper on that. What do you mean by that?
Now, let's say India has a lot of youth. So, and for a long time, nobody was making Indian music. Until I think 2019, nobody was making Indian techno and house. And I used to keep telling my friends that this is a gold mine. A lot of people are not making it. Now you can see how big it is.
Yeah, of course.
So, but it's still on the global market cap. The sound is still very small. Every other ideology or every other brand design or sound design has a bigger market cap because they have more numbers.
Right.
So I think the challenge now is more, how do we increase our numbers and listeners for this kind of sound? So yeah, so that's why, like I said, the competition is bigger.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like getting a space it's considered as a supermarket, and you have to get a shelf space. That's all.
And most of these ideas, most of these learnings, you said you sort of incorporated it just by sort of going out and learning these skill sets.
Yeah.
How long did you work in the corporate space?
Corporate space, I left 2020 when COVID happened. Yeah, after that I became broke, and then I decided, you know what? Let's go deeper. Let's go worse. Let's fully leave the corporate world and let's go fully into music.
And how long did you work there?
In corporate?
Yeah.
Till 2019.
How many years?
From 2015 to, I passed out college 2013, so 7 years.
7 years.
7 years I worked in design corporate, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. And I'm so happy that you're really talking about music from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Because I feel especially in the younger sort of generation, at least through our experience, that is still lacking a little bit, right? Like everybody's like, bro, I want to make the best music possible, and then I want to put it out there, and then I'll see what happens with it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in the real world, it doesn't work that way, right? You have to treat this whole thing as a business. You have to think about finance, you have to think about marketing, you have to think about brand, operations, etc., etc. Even if you're at a smaller level, right?
Yes.
Of course, as you grow, like you said, it gets even bigger and bigger. But as early as possible, you can incorporate some of those business skill sets, the better it is for you. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
How do you...
Because I'm so sorry. Because I think when you focus on marketing, you just don't look at it as a capitalistic view. You will also get inspiration to make your music even more global, even more better, even more like wide, and even you will improve your quality, because when you enter into that kind of mindset, you're forced to improve your quality.
Right.
Yeah. So that's very important, I would say.
Absolutely. And what advice would you have for a young kid who's just starting out, really from a business or a marketing standpoint? Like, how should they think about it?
I've seen is there is a lot of self-judgment in their head and fear.
Okay.
I think I would suggest, no matter how your music sounds, keep putting it out, because the only way you are going to polish yourself is if you're going to put it out. You might get criticism, you might get compliments as well. That should inspire you enough to make your music better. That's all I would say. But most of them are not putting out, and then their careers die down because they have not received feedback. Feedback is super important.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And also, there's a lot of, I mean, for a lack of a better word, I'll put it out as hate for people who are creating content, right? Like content for their music.
What kind of content?
Any kind of content, right? Any kind of content. This guy's a sellout. Like, he's doing content because he's not strong from a musical standpoint. You, on the other hand, have completely sort of, flipped that. I will put out my content and my music will be strong as well.
Yeah.
What recommendation do you have from a content standpoint, like specifically? Because we get a lot of questions where young artists are coming up to us, mujhe content banana hai, but number one is a lot of judgment. Okay, if I put myself out there, I'll be shat on, number one. And then number two, mujhe pata hi nahi ki kya content banao yaar. I don't know what to make. So what advice do you have specifically for content?
I think having a plan is important when you're making content. What part of the industry you want to get in. If you just want to play in clubs and just want to bring your friends to a party or something, then it's fine. You can put that kind of. If you wanted to get into music production and label, you have to put content like that because that's the demand of the industry. Now, it depends on what you truly want. I think it's clear. If you want to do visual shows or if you want to throw pool parties, then I think having a direction is important.
Right.
Yeah. If somebody is doing theme parties, he should have that kind of content.
Right.
Yeah. If he wants all of it, then he should have all of it. It's very simple. I think direction is important. Hate will come either way, but I think direction is important.
Have you received a lot of hate over your career?
Sometimes it's okay.
I think you are probably one of the most likable artists in the industry. I don't think I have heard a lot of hate about you from anyone, really, to be honest. Again, this is all perception.
Okay.
I don't know how much of it actually gets to you or how it affects you, but this is how we see it. Like, Fake Tattoos is someone that everybody loves, be it a promoter, be it an audience, be it a DJ. Everybody has that certain sense of, I'd say, respect for you because of, how they've seen you and, what you've done. But do you feel like, do you get that hate do you receive it?
Sometimes it's fine, but it's fine. Like I said, time management is important.
So don't focus on it. Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
My priority is the audience and me. So these things will happen. That's fine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you also, spoke about mental health and physical health and all of that. So I just want to, spend a couple of minutes on that. How has this whole journey of over a decade affected you mentally and physically?
I think a lot of reality checks you will get over this journey as you keep pursuing this. One of the most biggest reality checks is you are going to spend less time with your family or your spouse or your kids or your friends. That is one reality check. You are going to feel lonely. There's no way out of it. This is this career you've chosen and it is going to happen. But at the same time, you're also going to feel a lot of love at the same time. And you need to embrace that. That is the amount of love you're going to get. Do not expect anything further than that. I think from my mistakes, I would say, I expected, obviously, you expect when you meet people in a club or like friends in a club, you automatically end up thinking, oh, this is going to be a very strong lasting friendship. But that is your mistake. That is not theirs. That is your mistake. You have to understand, it is just meant for that space. That's all. All your personal relationships from childhood or something, that is a different thing. You manage that differently. So I think I made a mistake of expecting more from it. But then that was my mistake. That was not that the industry that what. It is how it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And do you have a sort of a practice that, to keep your mental health in check, you have like certain, rituals or anything like that?
I meditate whenever I get time in hotels because it's very peace and quiet. Yeah. At home also sometimes. And then, like I said, I try to get as much sleep as I can. Super important. And obviously diet, super important.
Right.
On weekends, I can spoil my diet because obviously you're in clubs and everything. But I think on weekdays, I stick to like a good amount of protein and antioxidants and your berries and stuff.
Lovely.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, good health is good wealth and mental stuff.
Lovely. That's so good to hear. And I think this is a common theme here, especially after a certain level of success, I want to call it. Anyone that we've spoken to, has this certain set of, practices that they have. Be it meditation, be it working out, all of these things are really, really important. I think anywhere, but especially in a super challenging industry like ours.
Yeah, super challenging. And in India, it's even more challenging because our culture has a lot of food, very heavy food, like there's good amounts of rice and roti and everything.
Right.
So, to balance that culture and nightlife culture, I think, like I said, I think sleep and walking are 1-2 habits everybody can pick up and should pick up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. So, Sam, we've spoken about, your successes and, they're all so obvious and clear for everyone to see. But we always ask, about the failures of an artist as well, because they're never visible. वो कभी दिखते नहीं हैं, but they're obviously there. You have felt them, you have experienced them, and you've learned from them.
Yeah.
So please do tell us about, what have been some of your failures over the 1 decade that you've been working, and what have you learned from them?
with failures in my career or failures overall in my personal life as well.
Anything that you want to share?
I think some relationships got damaged. That's due to obviously lack of sleep and the travel schedule. So that is one part of the failure. In terms of music and creativity, I won't consider failure. It's mostly a learning one. If it doesn't work out, it's learning for you to what you can do better.
Right.
But I think on the personal front, there's been a good amount of failures with some with friends or relationships because of the schedules and like I said, sometimes up and down mental health.
Any recommendations in terms of that specifically? Like how can we sort of keep our relationships in check while we're doing all of this?
It's very important to find a good partner or understanding friendship, and it's super important to communicate. I think what happens is communication. Sometimes, mostly, things fail because of communication. So I think communication is super important. Yeah, and obviously, if you become too busy or you have no time for friends and family, I think you should be honest about that communication as well.
Got it. Makes sense. And now that you're, at this level in your career, has that specific part gotten easier, or is it even more difficult?
What?
Your relationships and your personal life and all of that.
I have now kept a day if I'm in India, I've kept a day or maybe 2 days a week with my friends and family to completely spend, like I said, playing games, poker, or something, so that I also stay sane.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's important.
That's important. Yeah. Like I have a dog as well, so I sniff it sometimes for my mental health.
Lovely. I think that's great advice, yaar. I think especially when you're sort of starting out and you really get into the hustle of it, it's very easy to get completely swayed away.
Yeah.
And at the same point of time, you need that razor focus, but you need to find that fine line and that balance as well, and figure out that, okay, there are more things in your life besides just this one thing that you're really, really focused on.
Yeah.
I think that sort of just adds to the whole individual as a whole. So I think that's super advice.
Yeah, I think at that stage you have to be organized, because not to do better business, to have better personal relationships. That's why. Because after a certain point of time, because you've been organized, your work will compound itself and it will show results. There's no going back after that. But then where do you take that organizing skill now? Now you take it to the relationships.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Organized relationships, boys. Think about it. Lovely.
Yeah.
And I just want to, stick to this theme a little bit more before we move on to a few more topics.
Yeah.
Sam, what is your biggest fear right now as an artist?
My health, actually. The kind of travel and schedule we have, I don't want to get lost in bad health. I think, in the history with so many artists, it has happened. So I think for every artist, it's a deep down core fear to not have bad health.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you've obviously said, that you have like a regular practice and in terms of meditation, in terms of fitness. Do you have any, this is a very specific question for DJs, do you have any advice in terms of ear health? Because this is honestly one of my biggest fears.
Okay.
Whenever I'm at an event, you know how much exposure we have to sound. And, once you go back to your hotel room, it's just the buzzing and you're just like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Do you have any practice in terms of ear health?
I would say that depends on individual to individual. So obviously for most artists, the booth monitor is usually loud. Sometimes I keep it mild as well. So my ears have been safe so far. I've never used a earplug as well.
Okay.
So, but like I said, it depends from individual to individual. If your ears are buzzing, you need to start reflecting and do something about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I've definitely incorporated are earplugs. Wherever I can, whenever I can. While playing, it's a little difficult, to be honest, but if I'm outside, if I'm on the other end, if I'm not playing, then so definitely I would.
Yeah, you would need
earplugs. The other thing that I started doing is taking breaks as much as possible. So if I'm at an event, I'm obviously there for like 4 or 5 hours, making sure that every 30, 40 minutes you just go out, to a space where there's not so much exposure to sound.
Yeah.
Third thing is doing regular checkups.
Yeah.
So my ENT, I've been working with him for a while now, and they will give you good advice. They will give you great regular practices that you can do. So these are just like 3-4 things that I've incorporated into my.
Of course, it's important. Yeah. And you should understand how your body is working.
Right.
Very important.
Right. And besides that, like, whatever you said as well, making sure that you're working out regularly, making sure that you're meditating regularly. These are all great points. I personally make sure that, I incorporate them as much as possible. And, really, really recommend it to anyone who's listening, whether you're a party goer, whether you're a DJ, whether you're a promoter, whether you're working at a venue. All of these things will help you have a more, a longer career in the industry. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's simple. If you walk more, if you eat well, you rave more until you're 60. We want you till you're 60, 70, 80, 90. Why not?
I think we can maybe even go longer now. I don't know how much you've been reading about this guy who's like, I'm just forgetting.
Brian Johnson,
exactly. So, so I think we can probably even go beyond 70, 80.
Why not? Yes.
Imagine like a 200-year-old raver right in the front row. Great, awesome. One more question I want to ask you around this whole theme, Sam, is that, and I think you've sort of already answered it, but I still want to know a little bit more about it, right? Because anyone who's reached a certain point in their career has sacrificed a lot. Like you said, you've sacrificed on your relationships specifically, like you said, which of course can't be easy. But what else have you sacrificed in order to get here? Like, what would it take for a young artist to get to a fake tattoos level?
I think on my early years, a lot of sleep, but I don't regret it. I needed that. I needed that push. I needed that madness. I think you have to sacrifice a bit of your sanity as well. You have to break certain rules in life.
That will.
I think you have to be a little bit more obsessive. So I think, and you have to be not normal. So you have to sacrifice being not normal.
Wow, that's quite validating. Thank you. That's a great point, and kind of brings me to my next question. I'm sure there are a lot of young artists, who reach out to you and ask you for a lot of advice. So, what do you think that most artists today, specifically in India, are doing wrong and can learn from whatever mistakes you've made in the past?
I think, like I said, the fear and the self-judgment is a lot more. So that is one. And I think consistency and discipline is also there. Like, we all love after parties. We all love everything. But if you're into producing and if you have a schedule, stick to your schedule and try not to make impulsive plans. I think, I'm not saying that for every party goer or something, but if you're a passionate producer, if you want to reach a certain level, like I said, that's also a sacrifice you have to make. Sometimes you have to cancel plans and sometimes you have to sit back at home and do these things. I think that amount of level of discipline I've not seen primarily in India. Obviously, few percentage of artists have it, but a big chunk of artists, they don't have it. And I've also understood that a lot of artists unconsciously want a lot of success very free and on their table. They don't know, but their conversations and all when I hear. But like I said, you have to understand, if you have a big audience, no doubt about it. It will come for you, no doubt. But if you're starting, try to figure out how to build that. Nothing's going to come to you. I think unconsciously in their language and in their behavior, I've seen this mostly. So yeah, that is something you need to get rid of.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And does that come from just sort of being in the industry for a while and, kind of getting humbled by everything? Or how do you feel that person should develop that skill set?
That's because of, I think, the influence of films mostly.
Interesting.
I think mostly what I feel psychologically, I feel influence of it. There's a dialogue in Gangs of Wasseypur. He says, everybody's a superstar in your own head. I think that is very ingrained deeply in a lot of people. I think it's not because of industry. I think it's films that have, I won't say they are ruining us, but like I said, you need to differentiate. This is for entertainment. But I think this psychological behavior is deeply ingrained. Everybody's thinking they're a superstar, so you come to them. That actually slows them down.
Interesting. And was networking a big part of your journey specifically, or was that not so important for you because your music and your content did most of the talking for you?
Networking happened after content became better.
Okay.
It was not networking and then content became better. So in the end, you have to make the core better. Your music has to be good. Your music has to be receptive to a lot of people, by a lot of people, and you need to make people feel something. Then the networking part comes. No matter how hard you try, with network you will get some exposure, but it has a threshold. But if your core is strong, your network might be replaced, but your core is strong. A bigger network might come, a better network, or a more flexible network might come. But if you solely rely on network, if the network goes, what do you have? Nothing. You will fall. So I think in the end, your core product needs to be
okay,
which is music. Your music needs to speak for itself.
Interesting.
There's no other way. This is the only way. You go outside, you travel anywhere. This is the only way.
But there is, I mean, this other side of things as well, right? Where there are artists who have such a strong network that they're able to sort of leverage it to fuel their growth.
Yeah, sure.
Is that not the case? What do you
think? Yeah, that case is there, no doubt about it. That case is there. But look at which part of the industry are they in. Are they in the musical part of the industry, or are they in the networking part of the industry? Again, like I said, direction is important. If you, let's say, if you don't have any music and you only play in 5-star hotels, your network is not in the music network. You're in hospitality and all this luxury hotels kind of business. And you're a DJ, and through network, you've gotten that. But if you're a musician, that is not going to work for you. The music part of the industry is going to work for you.
Okay.
So I think what you said does matter,
right?
But I think it's a different part of the industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Great. That makes a lot of sense, Sam. For my next set of questions, I actually want to go to our Instagram where, we posted that we'll be interviewing you. And so we got a few questions from your fans.
Yes.
So these are interesting questions. Okay. They're not mine. Okay. So I want to be clear about that.
Okay.
The first question is, how many tattoos do you have?
0. I'm so sorry. But people have my tattoos. They've written fake tattoos on their belly or somewhere on their chest. So I'm all good.
How does that feel?
It's good. Nice to have. Making music for all of them.
Wow. Yes. Beautiful, man. Yeah. Do you plan to get any tattoos?
Maybe someday my logo. I like my logo, so maybe someday my logo I'll get it.
And you've designed it yourself?
Yes.
Of course. Super. And my next question, this is from your friend, Rahul.
What's up?
The question, I'm sorry to ask this, bro. I'm really sorry to ask this, but I can't help it. What's your body count?
What does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean like how many people come to my show?
Yes, exactly.
A good amount of fans come to the show.
Okay, great. Okay, the third question, and this is the most asked question. Obviously, I think you probably already know what it is. What is the story behind the name, my friend? Please tell us. Please tell everyone, even though you've probably already told every single person you've ever met. Yeah. But let's get this story out there once and for all, so you don't have to answer it
ever
again.
And please give million views to this interview so that I don't have to answer this question another day. So that at least 1 million people have seen it. I'm free from 1 million people asking it.
Done.
So in 2013 or 2014, I was cosplaying as Deadmau5 in Comic Con, and Deadmau5 has a lot of tattoos in his on his body. So I had to make fake ones or wear fake skins. So I cosplayed as Deadmau5 during Comic Con, and when I went up on stage, someone screamed very loud, "I really like your fake tattoos." So that's when I decided it sounds very catchy and sounds very interesting. So maybe I'll pick it up from there. Ever since that, since 2014, this has been the name from Comic Con. Thank you, Deadmau5.
Wow, interesting. Very interesting. Okay, done. So now this question will never be answered. If anybody comes and asks you this question, divert them to the podcast.
The views are coming.
Done. Great. So in the last section of the interview, Sam, I want to talk a little bit about the industry as a whole and how you perceive it, especially because you have a different outlook on it, right, compared to most of the other artists in terms of what you've achieved and where you are. So tell me one thing that you really love about this industry, and tell me one thing that you would change today.
I think consumerism is what I would change. I think a lot of part of this industry has consumed a lot of content. So there is a big trial room effect. Oh, it's made like this year, we'll create like this year. The thing is that you can build a local scene very big here, through understanding how the local acts and how the local crowd perceives music, and through that you can create a branding. But unfortunately, due to trial room effect, where they see and they consume this content which is happening outside, see, nothing bad to replicate that, but you also have to build a strong core here. I think we still lack a very big strong core. I think working with local artists, local promoters, and creating a very, very strong base brand from an Indian techno or nightlife scene will make a huge difference. I think that has not happened due to this trial room and consumerism effect, where they're still trying to replicate something that was happened somewhere else. So I would suggest make something very strong and with big core.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what's one thing
using the local scene? Yes.
And what's one thing that you absolutely love about the industry?
Oh, the Indian industry or the global?
Anything. Answer both.
Yeah. Okay. The Indian industry, I would say, is the crowd here. They feel the music the best.
Okay.
Everywhere else, there's party, there's different kinds of agendas. Here, you feel the music, and I absolutely love this sport. India. I feel also emotional watching. Fuck, that guy's feeling it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So about global industry is mostly like, I think everything's cut to cut. I like that. There's not much negotiations. There's not much dwelling. It's like, okay, this is that. This much crowd will come. This is the gig. This many fans have come for you. This many people are going to see you. This many. Everything is very straightforward. So that's something I like about industry also.
Okay, lovely. Yeah. And since you spoke about international, of course you've been touring internationally as well, man. That's a major kudos to you, man. That makes all of us so happy and so proud that artists from India are able to get to that level and to that stage. And of course, sky is the limit for you, man. But please tell me, how have these experiences been so far? Traveling across these countries and playing, and what's that experience like, and what have you learned from it?
One thing, jet lag really does affect you. The other thing is you get exposed to a new kind of energy in this kind of culture. Like here, like people feel music more deeply in India. There maybe not that deeply, but that's a benefit also. There maybe party is a big culture in Europe and in a lot of Western countries. So you tend to think that, okay, I need to make a party banger as well. So that inspires you in a different way. Because sometimes you always don't want to make such deep or music with all meaningful. Sometimes you want to make a very good vibey party that really works everywhere. And Haseen Raatein did that for me. It worked in India because it has the feels, has the party vibe as well, which works in Western countries as well. I've seen it. I've gotten messages from China, Spain, Romania, and they don't understand the language. But I understand why they like it. I understand because they feel the party vibe too. So I think going outside, I learned, because dance music in the end is about party. I think going outside, I learned that to make better party music.
Very interesting. And like you said, the tours themselves are very sort of cut. They're very professional. Do you think those are some things that we can also incorporate here in India? Is that possible?
Yeah, that is 100% possible. I think that can be possible when, I think very important to the organizer, something when you're starting out, do not look for profits in at least immediately. I think that's the thing. First, build your market, build your brand, build your inspiration. Because I, as an artist, again, for 6-7 years, I was not in profit. I kept investing money in my career. But I think what most people make a mistake here is every new organizer wants profit here very soon, rather than building a database. There's a lot of strength in building a database. So everybody's like, they want to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have a database. So how will you make money? It's not through the artist, not through the club. Through your database, you're going to make money. So you have to invest in that database. You have to invest time and money without looking at profits on building that database.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that lacks here, as seen. That intention lacks here.
And you do your own events as well.
Yes.
Right? You do your own nights. Tell us a little bit about that. How's that experience been? And what have you learned from it?
I do this party called Indian House Music Project. It's been 3 years I've been doing this. The thing I've learned about, that's where I learned about how database is important. For those events also, I sometimes used to go for loss. Although I used to do it in a small space, I used to hire 4 artists and a camera crew, and I used to market on Instagram as well. And one of the YouTube sets has almost around 70K views as well. You can check it out.
Right.
The crowd used to be very strong, very niche. Everybody used to know each other, and we used to all bond over like the rise of Indian techno, and like it was new and fresh then. Everybody used to bond over that. So I used my time and money and effort to building that network, building the core fan base. I learned these things obviously on the go. I learned it.
Right.
I obviously built the fan base. I built knowledge about lighting skills. My opening DJs used to tell me we should add this, we should add that. I took advices from them as well, and even the camera crew as well. We sort of built a community around it. So that gave so much insight that without it also now I can apply this knowledge in my personal brand as well. So creating that and investing that and even going for loss into that was in fact a beneficial investment for my personal growth. So, and as you can see the results.
Right.
Yeah.
Great, man. I think there's so many like chunks of such useful pieces of advice that you've given throughout this conversation. So thank you for that. We've just got a couple of more questions and then we'll let you go for your poker night. Are you playing anywhere today?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Today we just probably have lunch or dinner with my friends.
Lovely. So yeah, like I said, just a couple of more questions that I want to ask about. Tell me a little bit about in terms of the evolution and the big trends that you are seeing in India right now, specifically when it comes to underground. Some things that maybe some people are seeing, maybe some people aren't seeing. But what are the big waves that you feel are currently going on or headed out?
I think India has the largest youth in the world right now. I think there'll be more parties, more party-oriented kind of vibe. There'll be more people going out to enjoy the party. It's like how during those early 2000 David Guetta's, that kind of music. I wouldn't say, I don't know about what music genre is going to work, but I think that culture is going to come.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of young people now. Okay. During our time, I'm 33, so during millennials, we were mostly about feels and, Linkin Park kind of deep lyrics. So that's why that culture was more popular. Now that there's a lot of young people, the wave I see is more like party and letting loose. It will be like all over 2000s again.
Interesting.
Early 2000s, but in a different way, obviously in a much more modern way.
Okay.
People want to hear lighter music and just want to party, wear nice clothes, click pictures, and dance their heart out. I think that's the wave I'm seeing because of a lot of young people. Yeah.
Interesting. And how do you feel that an artist or a programmer or a venue, how do you feel they can leverage this?
Like I said, there's so much youth in India. I don't think you will face a downside here. You will only go upside here because there's way too many people to party right now. The audience is not lesser right now. It has substantially increased. And I think giving very memorable party experiences is something you can leverage out of.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes complete sense, man. My last question to you, Sam, is what is next for Fake Tattoos? What are you working on right now? How do you see yourself evolving? What is your vision? Tell us about all that.
Currently, I'm finishing my 4th album, and some of the tracks have been out. Haseena, Haseen Raatein, Habibi, you've heard of that. After the release of the album, we will probably plan a tour in some countries and few debut cities around the world as well. And I'm currently also working on an audio-visual show, which is in Hyderabad on the 19th this weekend. It's called Everything Fake, and I cannot let the theme out right now, so you'll have to experience it. We want to see how big this can get.
Right.
So on the side, we are doing that as well, and obviously have my IP Indian House Music Project to connect with my core community and build our relationships even stronger.
Right.
So these are the 3 things I'm working on at the moment. And also we are on the lookout. We are on the producer end. We are on the lookout to promote more house music, more tech house and house, because like I said, party genre is going to become big.
Right.
So we want those nice tech party housey kind of vibe. So I would definitely looking for producers who can send us those kind of music.
Okay.
So we can help them in their career, or maybe they can remix my stuff or collaborate into those kind of things.
Lovely. You have an email ID or anything you want to plug? How should they reach out?
faketattoosmusic@gmail.com. You can email me your music. Let's party and create dance music.
Lovely. So there you go, guys. Anything that you want to speak out about your music. If you want to work on his music, anything that you want to collaborate on, please do reach out. This is a great opportunity. Yaar. Like now, if you still feel कि okay yaar, हाँ, देख लेंगे, कर लेंगे. Like literally, this is such a good opportunity. So please do that. And one more thing, Sam, that actually wanted to ask you about, and that we were discussing offline a little bit, since you brought up your albums. It's very interesting that all of your albums so far have been independent releases.
Correct.
That is very, very unique.
Yeah.
Please tell us about the thought process behind that, and is this the way that most artists should approach their releases? What do you think?
I think it depends on artist to artist. I like to keep the rights of my music because, like I said, I've studied business and I've always I've networked with very big business giants. They didn't advise me this, but from that, from speaking to them, I understood that okay, my music is unique, and it is getting popular. It is getting bigger. It is getting bigger, and people are reacting to it even more and more. So, for this financial security, I think it's important I keep the rights to me. I think that's just basic knowledge.
Got it.
So I don't have to split it with anybody. But eventually, if any big company wants it, obviously we can obviously deal it, negotiate terms.
Right.
But for now, it's good that the rights are there.
Right. But of course, the sort of downside there is that the distribution will probably not be as much as compared to what you could get from a label.
From a label. Yeah, you might get exposure from the label, but if you look at my Instagram, if you look at my Spotify, I have 43,000 on Instagram, 44 on. So it's core audience. It's core audience who have followed me through the journey, which means I have a very strong sense of security with them. So it's not sudden exposure for me and then sudden downfall. Those kind of things I won't be facing due to the direction I've taken. Because everybody is growing, everything is consistently growing at its own pace. And I like that way. For me, it works for me. If I suddenly blow up, it's nice. But I don't want to chase that. I want to keep building it with my crowd.
Right.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Like I said, I think this was such an insightful interview. We got to know so much about you and your process and your mindset. So many useful nuggets of knowledge that I am definitely going to incorporate. I hope most of the listeners that are, young artists who are looking to grow definitely need to incorporate it. And any last message that you want to give to your fans? Anything you want to say to them?
Come to my party. We'll have Haseen Raatein.
Beautiful, bro. Thank you so much for doing this, Sam. This was such a pleasure, and it was like we didn't even realize where the time went. We talked about so many things. We could have gone on for a lot longer, but let's probably do this in the next round.
Yes.
So thank you so much for doing this, man. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate this. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.
See you.